Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Good morning from a very sunny Munich where the Where's Shmee Euro Tour continues, taking the two Italian Shmee-mobiles today down to Italy. We're going to be heading down the German Autobahn, the de-restricted sections, and I'll be at the wheel of the Huracan STO, which I imagine is going to be quite fun to let this V10 scream away as we make our way down to the Modena region in Italy where both of these cars were originally born. The Lamborghini in Sant'Agata Bolognese, where I really wanted to visit when the car was in assembly, but travel restrictions made that impossible. And of course the Lusso in Brennero, the home of Ferrari. But I'm looking forward to getting behind the wheel of this on a beautiful day. We have inflated tyre pressures, everything that you should prepare before a high-speed blast, but to enjoy the drive, to have some fun, and I think most importantly, to let both the naturally aspirated V10 and the naturally aspirated V12 scream away and do what they do best. Prior to this point on the tour, we've had quite a few miles driving with the two cars across Germany. Although the weather was less than ideal, today is absolutely glorious. We're going to be heading with both of them through the mountains, up onto some twisty roads as well, and I cannot wait to experience a little bit more of what this is like. Now, I used to have a GTC4Lusso prior to this one, so I have an experience of what that car is like when you do push on at higher speeds. I can tell you what, it is not a downforce car, gets a little bit washy when you're at faster speeds, but today is about the STO, of course armed with aero, lots and lots of downforce, and a car that will no doubt feel planted to the Autobahn. So on the miles we had to actually get here to Munich, it was pouring with rain. We've had the cars cleaned up while we've been here for the last couple of days, but it's time for this adventure to continue. So the STO is rear driven, the wonderful 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, and the insane 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 that screams away, the STO being based on the Huracan Evo rear wheel drive in effect. But that means a car that's a little bit lighter, a little bit more poignant, we could say, and I know it's going to sound amazing. So inside the car, let me just get things started for a moment. Everything is packed, all of the luggage is in the Lusso, considering the complete lack of space that we have in the STO, but nonetheless, let's get it started. Sounds perfect. I don't know whether it's better in STO or Trofeo, but I'm going to get out a digital speedometer because of the discrepancies between the car's speedo and this. The car's speedo is always overread. It would be illegal if they underread, so they tend to have a little bit of a factor built in. The Lamborghini has a very big factor built in, so that always slightly skews things. Anyway, let's get set up because we need to be heading on the road. As I said, we're heading down about 100 kilometers of Autobahn from here. We cross all the way through Austria, then we get into Italy, then we go up to the mountains, where it's going to be very, 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 very cold, I expect. But from there, we're going to head down towards one of my favorite places ever to go, with some really cool stuff on the horizon. The nav is set, destination Italy, 3 or 4 hours away. But first up is to pull out from here. Thankfully, we're not too low in this car, even though we have a little bit of a bump to get out of the little car park here. So, wonderful day ahead, a long slog, comfort massively improved thanks to having some pillows in the back, and as I said, we will have a digital speedo, because I always find this very interesting. Different cars give you different accuracy levels, we can say. The German cars, which spend a lot of time at high speed, tend to be absolutely on the nose. You know, the AMG GTs, for example, they'll tell you the speed on the dashboard and your GPS will say the same, whereas certain others tend to be a little bit optimistic. So you might see 300 on the dash, but you're probably only going 280, 285, something like that, which is really quite interesting. And I'll try and do some conversions between kilometers per hour and miles per hour. But the top speed of the STO is actually only, if we can say only, 310 kilometers per hour, which is about 193 miles per hour, and that's basically because of all of the extra aero. Because it has so much downforce, that effectively acts as drag when you're at the top speed, which means it is slower than a regular Huracan Evo or other derivative of the platform, which is always something that just takes a little bit of time to get the head around. Anyway, it's quite early in the morning, as we said. Always best to get on the road for a long slog ahead of time. It means hopefully we can be in the mountains for lunch. That is the objective today, but there are still some border controls and things, so we've had to do all of that paperwork and stuff ready for the next few legs of this. But a big part of this trip is to head down to Italy to take this car to the Lamborghini factory, and that is exactly where we're going, and I know a lot of you would love to hear plenty of this, so that's what I want to try and achieve today, to be able to share the fun and excitement of this car, and I have to lean out awkwardly because right-hand drive, pulling out onto a slightly faster road here. Not the most stylish way to exit possible. But we're on the move. We are on our way in the car that needs a little bit of warming up. But not too long from now, and we'll be on the open and flowing roads. We are already at the start of the Autobahn. Now I suspect we have a restricted section indeed. It's 100 kilometers an hour here. Just start warming up those revs. The gearbox in this car is just glorious. I mean, even just that mid-range wail when you blip a gear or two. So, waiting for de-restricted, then we can open it up. Here we are then, de-restricted signs. Let's drop some gears. 4th gear, there's a lot of torque in here. Listen to this. And a speed limited section. Oh well, we go through a tunnel here and then it opens up on the other side. I know exactly where we are. Wow. The noise of this car, the feeling of this car, it's all round just absurd, to be completely honest, just absolutely absurd in the tunnel. Goodness. And back into the de-restricted, drop some gears. Effortlessly to 200 kilometers an hour, 124 miles per hour. Obviously I've got the digital speedo up now, which is going to be the quite interesting thing to see. Because obviously at slower speeds, when you're at 70 miles per hour, a little over 100 kilometers an hour, a 3 or 4% discrepancy isn't a particularly large number. When you're at nearly 200 miles an hour, it is a slightly different story. That all of a sudden becomes a huge difference, extrapolated out, and it is, like I said, something like 15 kilometers per hour different perhaps. One of the things about a naturally aspirated engine like this is that it sounds glorious and you have very linear power, but you do obviously get all of that. So if you're in a twin turbo car, it just seems to continuously build. Whereas in here, you've kind of had it all when you get your foot on the throttle. And don't get me wrong, it's not that this car isn't fast, but 640 horsepower, relative to say the Senna or the GT Black series, is actually not that fast comparatively. I feel very spoiled to be able to say that. But hey, it's the way these things have gone when 800 odd horsepower becomes almost the norm for a supercar these days. Anyway, hoping on it opening up a little bit ahead of us. Out of some roadworks, de-restricted signs, down to 3rd gear. Listen to this. Absolute madness. 250 kilometers an hour, 265, which was 249 on the GPS, I think, or 253, so about what I thought in terms of an overread. Now we're restricted again. Short, straight stretch, but great fun. I've got a funny story to tell you, but first, we're returning to de-restricted at last. We basically just had a bit of a police checkpoint, but I'll try and fill you in on that one a little bit later. For the moment, just enjoy a little bit more of this because it's been a long slog of restricted Autobahn today, I guess because it is quite congested. Oh, I actually want that into manual. Probably want to set this as well. There we go. Oh, this car is so cool. It's just a bit silly. And silly is oh so fantastic. Wow. And as as I mentioned earlier, when you're in a car with as much downforce as something like this, you feel it, because as you go around corners, it's just on rails, it's just glued to the tarmac. Obviously, the airflow over the car is just pushing it down. The fact that it has those ducts that come in through the front, which means that it has no luggage space. The fact that it has a massive wing on the rear. So basically, just to tell you the story, we pulled into a services at the side of the Autobahn to pop in to buy the vignette, the road tax that you need to pay for Austria. You buy a 10-day pass or a 60-day pass or whatever you need. And while we were parked at the petrol station, an unmarked BMW 5 Series Touring pulls in across and parks over the front. And I instantly know what that is, because I've seen them more than enough times. 5 Series Touring with a couple, one guy, one lady, and complete document check, but not just like a little bit, like checking the VIN stickers and scanning our driving licenses on some kind of microscope reader type thing, and all sorts of kind of like properly investigating if everything is correct. But obviously you don't go on a trip like this without carrying the right documentation, proof that you own the car, all that kind of stuff. So that was an interesting waste of half an hour, only for everything to be, you know, all good, on you go. But anyway, it is what it is. It's all part of doing a road trip, I suppose, when you're in a bright pink Lamborghini with a Ferrari, 2 British plates, which look quite similar. It does draw a little bit of attention. And I guess around here in Germany, being British is probably a reason to be pulled over. Check the cars. It's a bit confusing. Why, what, etc. Just looks like we've got more roadworks. So alas, I don't think we're going to have much by way of a very quick stint today, but let's see what happens. We do have a little bit more before we cross the border into Austria, and then, as I said, we're heading down to Italy. So I am super excited for having this car on some of the twisty roads that I've driven in many other Shmee mobiles before, and getting down later on towards the heartland of the supercar, really. Onto a different Autobahn now. That noise of the gearbox, and then that noise of the V10. It's just ridiculous. This car is so silly, loud and dramatic. Oh, it's an interesting move there. Foot down and just up to 8,500 RPM. Again, quite busy though. But you know what? I'm not complaining, because hearing this car running all the way through the rev range, up to the red line, it's what engines like this were built to do. And it just sounds epic. And this is in STO, I've not gone into Trofeo, where you get more cracks like that on the downshifts. And an even more aggressive shift, but I don't think it would be any faster. The suspension is much firmer, and you don't really want that when you're on a long distance cruise on the Autobahn. Just, you get a lot of that, obviously, as you can hear. So actually, let's go back into STO. Madness. Another speed limit section, firm on the brake. It does become quite funny. You wait for these signs, drop the gears, and then go again. Gosh, this must sound insane as it flies past people. It must just sound absolutely insane. Okay, car's braking, firm on the brakes. 290 kilometers an hour. The best part of 300, I didn't see what the speed was though on the actual readout. You guys have had a sneak peek of that ahead of me. Gosh, still pulling pretty hard at that stage though. Obviously the dash will go well over 310. That's not going to be the top on here. Another speed limit. Those downshifts though, yeah. Maybe at some point I need to get up really early and take it for a run on an open road and see what's possible. Obviously you always have to put safety first for this kind of thing. You need to watch out for traffic. You can't kind of target a top speed number and try and hit it, because you're just going to put yourself and others into a silly situation. You need to make sure the car is prepped as well for all of this. this. If it's of interest then, on the car, it does actually record the top speed it's driven, 296 kilometers per hour, and the GPS system says 278 was the max. So that's actually fascinating, 18 kilometers per hour out at that speed, so about 20 at your top speed, let's say, which is actually quite significant. So anyway, 278 real speed kilometers per hour is pretty insanely fast. I mean, top of my head, that's got to be 172 miles an hour. 272 would be pretty extreme. It's in that ballpark. And it felt so planted at that speed, as you'd hope, as you'd expect something like this. It felt completely glued to the tarmac, happy, plenty more to go, but I know at some point it would run into that aero brick wall. That's what would happen from there on. And I still have the Lusso right behind me, which is good fun as well. But anywho, let's see where things take us from here. This would be the border checkpoint to Austria, with traffic and all sorts. I think we want to go into the left lane for this crossing. Thankfully though, of course, we have all docks, we have everything, we're transiting across the country, so should be totally fine. And this is the entry to Italia. This means, as of right now, the STO is back home, and in just a second behind us, the Lusso will be back in its homeland as well. We have brought the current two Italian Shmee-mobiles back to Italy, and we immediately have a tunnel, which is very kind of them. Perfect entry to this wonderful country. It's always a delight to be in Italy, to enjoy the roads, to enjoy the food, the hospitality, the events, everything about it, and of course to be heading to the home of these two via these amazing mountains. And look at this, look at the views. It is bellissima, I think we can say. Anyway, a few more hours of chilled cruising to make our way on and up the hills. We have made it off the Autostradas to now being on some pretty spectacular roads ahead. Mark my words, driven here quite a few times before, and it's really quite amazing. And in fact, look out to the left. The view across the mountains is special. Really special. And we are heading to quite some altitude up this way, up towards the top, up towards the ski resorts, to be honest. Yeah, this is where I'm quite intrigued at this moment to see what this car's actually going to be like when we can open it up a little bit more on the Twisty stuff and properly enjoy it as it was built to be enjoyed. So a little bit further and it will open a little more. Now this is my kind of road. Got the car actually in Trofeo mode at the moment because the tarmac is so smooth. Wow. Just ballistic. This is cool. This is really cool. Tell you what, there's so much torque, you don't really need to drop it down to first, but it does sound oh so good when you do. Ah, just an angry, noisy bull. Exactly what a Lamborghini is all about. Those shifts are just glorious. This is perfection. This is such a cool place to drive. And I've driven up this road, as I said, many, many, many times. Once with all of my YouTube friends way back, with Paul from Supercars of London, James, Mr. JWW, Sam, Seen Through Glass, Seb Delaney. We all came on a trip up this way years ago. I think a long time back. Came here most recently with the Audi RS3 when we picked it up in Munich and drove it up here to take it for my kind of first drive review of it up at the top. Yeah, just, don't know, nice place to be on the way down towards Italy as we chill out a notch going through the town up here. I say chill out, but you're never really chilling out in an STO. One of the coolest things about this is we're in ski territory now. There is a slope right here beside the road. There's somebody or a few people coming down, but we've got hairpin after hairpin, sorry, not particularly smooth, to enjoy in a rear-wheel drive Lambo, but thankfully it's actually quite warm relative. It's about 5 or 6 degrees up here. It's been about 12 degrees down at the bottom, Celsius that is, so thankfully we're all good in terms of tyres and grip. If it was snowing, which it could be at this time of year, this would not work so well, but we're heading up towards the top. You can see the peaks of the mountains up there. Just a really cool place to be driving. And the twists and turns like this, just endless, one after another. Hairpins surrounded by snow. Oh, there's a bus in front of us. That's going to be interesting. That's going to make life a little bit more complicated going up here, unfortunately. Although a few of the people that we've gone past on the way up to this point have seen a pink Lamborghini behind them, and they've very kindly just tucked into the side and we've gone past. It's amazing how much passion there is for automotive in Italy. Completely different to anywhere else in the world. Nowhere else would people so voluntarily move out of the way of a car like this to just let you go through and let you have some fun, other than here. But we're only a couple of kilometers to the top, where the views are going to get even more striking than they are from here. Now this is cool. Up in the mountains, the ski resort off behind us, lots of people out on the slopes, and then this, parked right alongside some snow, kind of dumped into a little corner. In fact, the Lusso is even more dumped into a little corner of the car park, but that's kind of how it works. This colour though, with the sunshine on it up here, it's so extreme. We've actually just stopped for a bite to eat here. I've been in this area many times before, but of course, with something this wild, it's just amazing to see. In fact, it's amazing to see the passion from people talking to others when they see this, just want to talk about it, take a look at it, go through it, people of all ages. And that's what you get in Italy. And that's why I love events like Mille Miglia and Cars and Coffee when it's out here, and try and spend as much time in the area as possible, really. Part of me would love to go up on the slopes right now, but not exactly equipped with all the right gear for that, and we've kind of got a destination to head onwards to, and it would be a recipe for inevitable disaster. But yeah, all is going pretty well. Can't complain in the slightest about today. Just look at that thing. Look at the shadow as well from the wing at the moment. One thing I didn't mention earlier, you can adjust the position of the wing, so it's in the middle setting at the moment. If you wanted real top speed, you would change the angle of that. If you wanted more downforce for track, you'd turn it the other way. Effectively, you unscrew it on each end and then just adjust the position. 3 different positions you can have. Obviously, that's part of the drag, you could say, from the top speed perspective. But just look at this, look at the metallic. It's mad, it's utterly mad. This colour is really starting to pop with the sun out on it. Anyway, yeah, nice little lunch. We'll have a little bit more chill and then we'll continue onwards and see where we find ourselves. Well, we're now on the way down the other side of the pass. Sun is absolutely beaming down. It says it's 5.5 degrees now. It feels actually quite a lot warmer than that. But I've never been up here during ski season time, and that's just really, really, really cool. Just a gentle cruise, I think, down this way. Perhaps we'll pull in when we get down to the very bottom. The scenery from up here is so breathtaking. It's really quite something to behold. Look at this. Just look at this place. Yep, there we go. Possible ice on road. Apparently that comes on at 5 degrees in the STO. Wow, it's amazing. Now this is tight and technical. The way down from here, we seem to have found a very narrow piece of tarmac. We've had a few cars that we've had to dodge out of the way from, but this car has rear wheel steering, which helps an awful lot around some of these corners, some of these bends. And it sure does sound epic, bouncing off all of the rocks and the kind of walls of dirt against us. And this piece of tarmac that's carved out down the hill like this. I mean, this is literally dropped some spaghetti on a hillside and this is the way it's fallen. There was no other objective when making this part of the road. Just sounds ferocious. And this is in STO. Since opening the valves, STO mode has got significantly more lively for me. Just so much. That's ridiculous. Because you want the softer suspension. If you go into Trofeo, it just gets a little bit too solid for this. Gosh, this car is fast. And obviously it's single track, so we have to go slowly in case something comes around the other corner where we cannot see. Oh man, this is amazing. What a wonderful day. driving the STO. Back down from the mountains, so it is onwards on the Autostrada towards our hotel for the night. A couple of hours to go, but basically just a cruise. We've just filled both cars up, full tanks. It is pretty terrifying how much I'm spending on fuel on this trip. Maybe we'll have a recap of that at the end of the Where's Shmee Euro Tour, and we have the totals for all 3 cars and many miles, but we will get to that. But I tell you what today has taught me is that in the right environment, the STO is a fantastic car. In the UK, I've not necessarily been its biggest fan, I make no secret of that, but on the right roads, like flat out on the Autobahn, driving at nearly 300 kilometers per hour, which is moderately ridiculous when you consider that it can go quite a lot faster even, well, quite clearly from today's drive, but seeing a little bit of that margin for error as well, but most specifically on the mountain passes on some lovely smooth Italian twisty switchback mountain roads, that has excelled, but keeping it, and this might be a surprise, in STO mode, not Trofeo. In Trofeo, the steering gets too heavy, the suspension gets too rough, and you can't change any settings or anything. So I massively prefer STO, which is how I've tended to drive it all the time. But now with the exhaust valve open, you get more sound out of it. The exhaust valve isn't fluttering in and out all the time and needing you to be right at the top of the revs to get any noise out of the thing. So it's spot on, and it is an absolute sweet spot now. So I'm enjoying it an awful lot more. But up to this point, of course, we've not yet got it back home to the factory. All of that is coming. The only thing that I can tell you is that while it might be brilliant to drive on a trip like this, you would never get your luggage in here for a road trip. You need another car to solve that problem. It would be absolutely impossible with the STO alone, unfortunately. But thankfully, we have the Lusso. We're heading down towards Italy. It is in, well, both cars are in their country of manufacture for the first time. And in fact, it's the first time any Italian supercar of mine, FF Lusso supercar, you know what I mean, mid-engined, proper sports car, has been in Italy, soon to be joined by the second, which I cannot wait for. Anyway, we're heading to the factory. That's coming up very soon. Lots of fun stuff with Lamborghini, a little bit longer before we make our way over to Ferrari. So onwards for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us on this leg of the Where's Shmee tour. We'll be back again with some crazy stuff very soon, so stay tuned. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Cheers.